I'm part of something that's not about me. Brock Purdy referred to his faith in this quote, saying to Rich Eisen, this is how he's been able to not let things phase him, how he's essentially been tapped in and focused, and how all that background noise is just that. He's a part of something bigger than him, a team, and not just any team. He's part of a team that visits a local children's hospital to spend time with Jason, a 14-year-old 49ers fan awaiting a heart transplant. Jason was surprised by his favorite team, who came to see him while rocking superhero capes and big smiles. This team certainly isn't about that me mentality that we've seen on far too many other fields. I've said this before, and it's something I truly believe with my soul. The 49ers play for each other. There's a reason why CMC felt blessed to join this group of guys, and why the brotherhood and culture of the locker room has not only been talked about, but idolized. To the point that the Cleveland Browns, who I credit the hell out of for how they looked and played against us last week, they walked out of their tunnel with a boombox and music blasting, which is the 49ers' signature move. What this team is building goes far beyond the locker room. This team truly loves each other and has each other's back like one big flippin' family. You saw big Trent Williams run out and defend his dudes, Deebo, and whoever that dude from the Lions who's going on his IG Live and letting number 19 build a whole ass mansion in his head and live rent-free. Trent's shown time and time again, you don't mess with his dogs. And so, when Purdy said to Rich, I'm part of something that's not about me, if you're a 49ers fan, you know exactly what he means, because we've seen this with these guys. Each player represents the other so flawlessly. And as a fan, you truly love to see it. Okay, we may have fallen off the undefeated wagon. So did the Eagles. I will take it. However, even in a loss, we have a winning mentality, a winning attitude, a big piece of humble pie that maybe we as fans needed, and the team is embracing too. I'm not worried about anything except injuries. I'm praying our dudes continue to take care of their minds and bodies and put themselves in a position to stay healthy for the duration of the season, because they all feed off of each other. They need that energy. And that energy, that family vibe, that Brock Purdy quote, that's what will fuel these guys to win a Super Bowl, not for themselves, but for each other. Now, enough of the mushy stuff. We're heading to Minnesota to take on Kirko Chains. It's Vikings week on Monday Night Football, baby. Let's go. My next guest is a sports writer who is best known for his Minnesota Vikings coverage. He's a fitness coach, a blogger, an entrepreneur, and has been a huge source of motivation for me in my career aspirations and my overall wellness journey as well. Of course, I had to invite him on the pod to talk about this Monday Night Football matchup. So please, everyone, give a mini cheer to Dominique Clare. Hello, how's it going, Dominique?
Hey, it's going good. How are you?
Amazing. I'm so good. It's like 6 a.m. over here, but I'm running on fuel. Thank you. I've got the game going in the background to motivate me. This is an exciting matchup. I'm so excited to have you on. So thank you for joining me. You're always such a beautiful ray of sunshine online. And honestly, I look up to a lot of what you're doing and the motivation that you bring every single day. So I'm grateful for you staying up for this. Before we get to the big game, though, I do want to talk a little bit about your journey and everything. As I kind of mentioned, all the things that you're doing. You're also the founder of Sports and Fitness Digest. So walk me through your fitness journey and how it all came to be what it is today.
Yeah, so my fitness journey basically started in 2018, but how I got to that point, well, 2017 actually, but how I got to that point was after college football ended. I really struggled with staying healthy. I fluctuated. I went back and forth. I jumped on every yo-yo diet. I drank a lot back then. I ate very unhealthy. And that went on from about 2012 to 2018. And right around 2017, 2018, I just decided I had enough. And I just made a decision to start being healthier. And I just started making one small decision every day that was healthier. I didn't do anything drastic. I just made a lifestyle change. And that was the start of my fitness journey. And one small thing every day, every week, every month just led to the journey in the right direction to where I am today.
That's amazing. And what do you enjoy most about, I guess, sports and the fitness industry in general?
I think the thing I enjoy most with sports, especially, is that how it brings people together. And sports they're powerful. They can galvanize a community in disaster, as you see with like Hurricane Katrina and things like that. Sports are awesome in that regard. And then with fitness, it would definitely just be the ability to have a positive impact on even one person's life makes it all worth it to me.
Oh, that's amazing. And who's been your biggest inspiration? So you can either look into the sports fitness industry if you'd like, or just in life in general.
Uh, I'd have to go with my mom for that. And it's fitting because it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month being October. So when I was
Mhm.
small, my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer, and she was actually told that she had months left to live. And it was just me and my brother at the time. So I was 5 and he was 2, and the doctors
Mhm.
told her that she wasn't going to make it, and my dad had just left her, so it was just her, and she did not accept that diagnosis. She said, "No, I got to be there for my boys," and she just kept fighting, and then they kept giving her longer, and she just kept fighting and fighting and fighting until eventually she beat it. And I'm proud to say my
Oh,
mom is still here today, and she's a fighter, and she is strong, and that I think just seeing that and having that personality is watching her growing up that stuck with her. And I think that rubbed off on me and kind of really helped shape who I am.
oh, I absolutely love that. Shout out to your mom. That's beautiful. What an amazing story. And I guess like you're such a big family man. I see it a lot too. Like some of the things that you're posting, all the beautiful photos that you have of your family. You have 3 kids. I have a 7 month old, so and I'm going through it right now. But it's amazing, and I wouldn't take it away from like anything that I'm doing. I feel like it's the best part about me right now is having her by my
Yeah.
side. She's been a bit of a handful, but it's incredibly rewarding to be a mom. So I guess looking at everything that, your mom has instilled in you and what you went through with her growing up, what does it mean to you to be a father now?
Yeah. And as you know, honestly, it means everything. They're my reason why. It's no surprise that my fitness journey and the birth of my first child, my son, they started the same year. I have 3 kids
Mhm.
since then, and my why just grows stronger every single time.
How do you balance everything that you're doing with your work and your family life?
That's I mean, it's never easy with anything, but I think you just have to set priorities. That's the biggest thing, and then set time to do things. If you make something important enough, you're going to find a way to get it done. Like us right now, it's 6 a.m. your time and it's 11 p.m. my time, and we're finding a way to get on a podcast and do what we love. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's so true. I know. There was a part of me this week, so it's just been kind of a week. We're going through a bit of a sleep regression.
yeah,
And so she's been up a lot more than normal. And like I'm very blessed because before this she slept really well. And now I'm like, well, this is what it feels like to actually have to wake up with a daughter. But I mean, yeah, when you're motivated to do something that you love, like it's hard to let those other things in the background bring you down, right? So
yeah.
very proud of us for doing this. Also, I did see that you've played at the Div 1 level for football and everything too. How has that experience shaped who you are today too?
Yeah, so college football was an awesome experience. So how it shaped me the most was actually probably in a way that isn't as typical for most people. So I had 2 big injuries while I was there. So I had
Mm.
to fight my way back to just to get to where I was every time I got hurt. So it's basically a year recovery, and then I had to try to get back to where I was in the depth chart. And so I would say the biggest way that it shaped me was teaching me how to be resilient and to never give up, because it's a competitive sport. There's a lot of people on a college football roster that are ready to take your spot, and every time you get hurt,
Mhm.
they do take your spot. So I would say that really got set me up for the real world, because the real world will eat you up and spit you out in a second. And my experience in college football got me ready for that.
Yeah, I mean, the adversities that we go through in life, I think, are some of the things that shape us into, more than what you would think with like the good things that we go through,
Yep.
right? Like, I think you kind of got to go through it to get to where you are today. And I'm glad that you are where you are. And you're helping so many others achieve health and happiness through your fitness coaching. How does it feel to, I guess, be that beacon of motivation and in a way, hope for others as well?
It feels good. It's extremely humbling to know that I have the ability to do that with some people, because I, it's crazy. You're just going through things yourself, but by sharing your journey and just relating with people, it's really cool that you have the ability to help other people. Because so many people are going through the same type of struggles and the same type of situations. So if anyone's out there is listening, and just share if you're ever hesitant on it, just share your journey. You never know who may going through the same struggles as you, and it's really cool to see who may benefit from you just sharing things that you do or things that you've done to overcome challenges that you faced.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that. So, like for me, I started really picking up a little bit of speed online with the things that I'm doing just by talking about, some of the stuff I'd been through in my past and writing about it and connecting with others that I guess had been through similar situations. And it's kind of scary, and there's something, you don't want to do it at first. You don't want to share because you feel like, maybe you're oversharing, maybe it's just
Yeah.
too much for some people, but you never know what you can get out of it first. But also who you're going to help along the way, because I had so many people reach out to me like in the DMs and say like what you told in your podcast or your story that you wrote, whatever it was. They're like, if you hadn't said that, like I don't think I could have gotten through the day today, or like certain things that you don't realize how much you're helping other people. And it's, I think, such a beautiful thing to use the experiences that we've been through in order to help lift up other people, right? So
Yes.
I'm happy that you're doing the same in what you're doing. But let's shift over now to the NFL. I see you're wearing your Vikings attire. Obviously, I've got
Yep.
my George Kittle jersey on because it's National Tight End Day tomorrow, which is exciting, although our game's on a Monday. How did you become a Vikings fan?
So I was born in the Bahamas, but my grandma's from Minnesota.
Cool.
So that's
Mhm.
where when my dad went down to the Bahamas and met my mom, we moved up to Minnesota when I was really little. So just Minnesota, grew up there, and naturally I was a Vikings, Timberwolves, Twins, whoever, all the Minnesota teams fans, and don't live in Minnesota anymore, but I'm still rocking with them.
Amazing. And have you been to a game before?
Yes, I have. I went to a lot growing up. I haven't been to one in a few years. I've just been watching them on TV, but plan on going maybe one this year, but want to go soon.
Yeah. You got to get to one, honestly. And out of all the ones, I guess that you've been to, is there a favorite that stands out to you?
Probably just watching Randy Moss is really memorable as a kid. Those were fun times as Vikings fans,
Yeah.
especially as a little kid seeing that greatness and just being surreal at the time. So I
Oh,
remember being in the old Metrodome, watching him take his helmet off, his big fro popping up, and all those old days. So that was pretty cool.
what was the vibe like in the Metrodome?
It was good. I have a lot of good memories from there as a kid. It was sad to see it go. It wasn't obviously
Yeah.
the stadium had its issues, but I understand why it had to go. But it was a fun place, really loud, fun place to watch football games.
Okay, and this is the question before we actually get right into the game. I like to ask all my guests this. If you could go for a beer, any type of drink that you enjoy drinking with any current or former Vikings player, who would it be and why?
It have to be Adrian Peterson. He's my favorite Vikings player. That and probably what I think one of the best to play for the franchise. Hardest worker I've ever seen. I actually had an opportunity to work out with him when I was in college at the same Game
Oh,
Speed Academy
amazing.
in Eden Prairie. He worked out at, and I trained there for a while. And just just to like tap into his work ethic and mind, and just a great player and my favorite guy to watch play football.
Now we're going to talk about the game. We're coming off a pretty crazy loss. I'm not like, I'm still kind of, I'm reveling in it right now. But I mean, it's one of those ones that I think we got served a big piece of humble pie. We were going, undefeated. Obviously, the Eagles too, they got a little humbled there too. So I don't feel as bad about it now that both of us are knocked off the undefeated. But it is what it is. We got to go through it sometimes to get to where we need to be in life. Like we were saying earlier, I'm going to take that same motivation and use it with the team. You guys have also had kind of a shaky start to the season. It's not, I guess, what you're used to with the Vikings. But wins and losses aside, it's now week 7. How are you honestly feeling about this Vikings team?
Yeah, it's not been the ideal year. Obviously, 2-4 is a lot worse than we had hoped for, being 13-3 last year.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm feeling more hope than I did if you would have asked me this earlier in the season. Um,
Okay.
coming off a win, 2-4, the schedule outside of the 49ers gets a little easier than it's been. So the Vikings had a really rough schedule to start the season to
Mhm.
just to put it easy. So I know you look at the percentages of making it to the playoffs and they're not great at their record, but then if you look at how the schedule is set up, that's not factored into those percentages. And I think the Vikings would be on the end of having an easier schedule. So I'm optimistic. That could be foolish, but I think even if the Vikings lose this game, the season's still not over, but you're going to see a lot of that talk about them being sellers at the trade deadline and moving pieces if they do lose this game. So,
Dude, I mean, I think, was it last year or the year before, we started the season 3-4. So it's never, you look at the records and everything, that's never a telltale sign that you're not going to make the playoffs. And so what do you think, I guess you kind of mentioned a little bit right there, what do you think Minnesota needs to do to turn things around and be hopeful for the playoffs this season?
one is going to be get healthy. Justin Jefferson's out right now. So obviously he's out. He's on IR, so he can't come back until a certain time. But once he's back, hopefully that hamstring is recovered, and is out with a hamstring that can really linger. And I don't want him to come back early, because if it pops again, it could get a lot worse. So I hope it does fully recover, and then they just get back in stride again. The defense is looking a lot better than they have in the past. Have a new coach, and they're flying over the field. It's good to see, because that was something that really lacked last year. And I think the offense to continue to improve play calling. That's been lacking a little bit. If play calling can get a little better, they're close. They just need to fix a couple things like play calling, just consistency, defensive pressure, those things. If they just get those down, I think they could be a team that's a little scary coming up here.
You said it with the trade deadline and everything approaching. Is there somebody that you have your eye on that you'd hope that they would go and pick up?
Not necessarily. I think they're in a good place. They already made a few trades, a couple of moves. So I don't really see them doing a whole lot more. I was just mentioning that maybe because they could potentially be trading people away to get assets for the draft if they start losing games. Okay. That's more what I foresee if they lose this game. But if they start winning a little bit, I guess we could see a surprise. But I don't really have my eyes set on anybody right now.
Okay, awesome. And then, okay, so on the flip, Brock Purdy is about to get blitzed more than like anybody, because I've seen that you guys are blitzing a lot. This is something that when I was looking up the Vikings now, I don't always, pay attention so much to the competition unless it's our division. Like I'm always looking at the Seahawks and Rams and Arizona, obviously. And like the Eagles are coming out. The Cowboys were a big one for me. So like Minnesota's kind of been under the radar for me. And everything I've been seeing is like you guys blitz on everything. Flores, I think, had like a 50 or 82% blitz rate against the Chargers. And I don't know, Justin Herbert had a really good game that game, but let's not worry about that. But it's apparently you guys have been blitzing on like 60.5% of passing plays that you guys have faced, which is nuts. You guys are sending 5 or more rushers on them, like just absolutely blitz haven. And so it's the most that I've seen, I think, in an NFL team since the stat has been tracked in 2007, which is nuts. So how much do you think we're going to see of the blitz game on Monday night?
It's going to be just as much, if not more, because you have weapons out on offense potentially. I know they're DNPs in practice the last several days. So if those guys are out, they're going to force him to make plays and throw it up. So it might be a historic blitz level if things can continue how they're trending right now. And I absolutely love it. They had to go that direction, especially with the roster that they have. They're lacking some star talent in some positions. So when you have that as a coach, you gotta send your guys and make something happen.
Yeah, very true. I asked my guest this last week, and so we're going to stick with the Brock Purdy train here because he's been a topic of conversation in the 49ers faithful, online, a lot in the media. We've seen a lot of people, whether they have good things to say about Brock Purdy or, they're saying he's just an anomaly, this isn't going to last. He did have a really rough game last week. Now, that being said, he threw 1 interception. It's been his first one of the season. If you look at a lot of other quarterbacks, they do 4 in a game, and it's, it is what it is. Like I'm looking at who we used to have in Jimmy Garoppolo, and I love Jimmy, but I mean, he's a very different quarterback than Jimmy Garoppolo. He has a lot of people hating on him. Brock Purdy does. And so I like to get the opposition's opinion on this because of course I'm in it. I'm a little biased sometimes, and I like to kind of be humbled by what other people are saying. But what do you honestly think about Brock Purdy?
I think he's a lot better than what the Brock Purdy haters are, saying about him, because it's not. Yes, he does have a good offensive line and weapons around him and a good defense to keep him in good situations and games, but at the same time, not anyone could just go out and execute an NFL offense. We've seen numerous teams with decent situations try to put somebody in there, and you can't just go do it. So even being a system quarterback is hard. Like, you have to be the right guy for that. So you have to give him credit, regardless of whether you think he's a system for San Francisco or if you think he's just out there being lucky. Like, you still have to give him credit for that. And I think being such a late draft pick, that's part of his mentality too, which makes him tough. And I think he's solid. Yeah, he's not Justin Herbert type of athleticism or skill, but I think he can still beat you, and he can get the job done.
Yeah, and this is something, like, for us at least, I've seen it last year when we had, obviously, Lance to start the season. He goes down, then Jimmy steps in, then Jimmy goes down, then Brock comes in. The style of play that we have, and obviously from Shanahan, we see a lot of running plays. We see a lot of those quick, easy checkdowns, the quick outs, the slants, nothing too crazy downfield. I would argue that a quarterback, almost at any caliber, could fit into his scheme as long as they can make those quick plays, right? So I wouldn't, people call it a system quarterback, but you kind of need the right guy in order to excel at it, right? Because we did have Jimmy before. Yeah, he got us to a Super Bowl, in 2019, but never got the job done. So I feel like we do have a guy that potentially could do that for us if everything's clicking, if the health is there with our receivers, like you were saying, we have a couple dudes that got banged up last week, Deebo and CMC, and even Trent Williams. Like, these are guys that obviously are very crucial to our offense. And if they're not playing in the game on Monday, I don't know how it's going to go for us. I'm such a believer that I'd rather have, a loss in an earlier game, but keep our guys healthy for down the stretch, because especially, like, we've got the Eagles coming up. We have, a squad that wants to make a run at a Super Bowl right now. I don't want to risk it with the injuries, right? And you've been there, done that with the injuries. So, we want to make sure everybody's healthy and at the right level they need to be playing in order to get the job done and keep that health down the road, right? So I'm going to give the game ball to you now. What are Dominique's 3 keys to getting the dub over San Francisco on Monday?
So first and foremost is going to be take care of the football. I don't know if you've seen any of the stats on how bad the Vikings have been with ball security. It's been terrible. So I hate to play that game and say the record could be such and such, but if they just simply took care of the football, they'd be in the top 5 team in the standings. And that's just, it's just a fact. I know there's a lot of other factors in the game, but that one thing, if they just did that, they'd be in a whole different situation. The conversation would be a lot different right now. So if they can just hold on to the ball, that's the most important thing. And then the second thing would be just to stop the run. The run defense has been a little shaky at times, and I'm a little terrified that even if it's not going to matter what Brock Purdy does, because the 49ers are going to be able to just have their way like many teams have with this Vikings run defense and just play power football and jam it down the Vikings' throat all game, and there's going to be nothing that they can do about it. So if they can find a way to stop the run, whether that's blowing up all the lanes with pressure or just guys playing out of their mind, that would be great. And then the last thing, counter to stopping the run, would be establishing the run. The Vikings have struggled, even though despite PFF saying they have one of the best run blocking offensive lines. We've struggled to see anything out of that this season with Alexander Mattison and now Cam Akers. They've struggled to get the run game going. So waiting on that behind this supposedly pretty good run blocking offensive line, because we need that to set up the play action, open that up for Kirk Cousins, which he does very well at a play action and can hurt defenses there.
Okay, this kind of leads me into my next question. Are you a big fantasy football person at all?
I used to be. I have not done it for 2 years now, because I was in too many leagues and I had to take a break.
Yeah, that's where I'm at right now. I have I think 10 that I actually care about, which is crazy to even say, but there's 3 that I'm in that I'm doing really well, and I'm focusing everything on those ones. But then in general, there's another 7 that I've got too much going on So I know how you feel. I need to take a step back maybe next year. I just can't say no to people, right? Like, I don't know what it is. You need to motivate me how to say no.
10
But
is
okay,
crazy.
it's too much, trust me, especially living on this side of the world, like with the waiver wire and everything, things come out at different times. Like I've kind of dropped off a little bit, I'm not going to lie, but that's okay. I do want to get a little bit of like, just from a Vikings fan's perspective and analyst perspective, on your side of the ball, who would you crown as your starter this week if you were playing fantasy football still?
So I would say take a risk on TJ Hawkinson. He gets the targets.
Ooh.
He's been dropping a lot of passes, but that's got to stop at some point. And when it does, he'll probably have his biggest week of the season. And Vikings with Justin Jefferson out, Kirk's going to have to keep targeting someone, and Hawkinson's typically his next favorite target. So I would say that's going to be his security blanket, someone they're going to try to establish early. And if he can throw in a touchdown or two, that could be a big fantasy football day.
Like I said, it is National Tight End Day tomorrow, right?
2018, like the second game of the year, I had me mic'd up. I see some weird stuff out there sometimes. And Jimmy G comes out like, oh man, all the tight ends are out here, good vibes. Like, what is it, like tight end day or something? I was like, it's National Tight Ends Day, Jimmy. And it's a holiday. And he was like, you're right, it's a holiday. And we were like, yes.
National Tight End Day. It's a holiday. It's a holiday. You know that today's a National Tight End holiday?
So we're just like, every time on the sideline, we're like, it's National Tight Ends Day. All the tight ends are having a great time.
Hey, it's National Tight End Day. It's a National Tight End Day. Tight ends all over the league. Let's go with touchdowns.
We're the only position that gets to do everything. You get to run routes. You get to catch the ball. You get to block people. I get to pass pro on people.
No.
We just kind of bond with everybody, and we just have a great time doing it.
So our guys might be going off on Monday. And this is actually, it's funny. That's exactly who I think for our side of the ball. I think it's going to be a Kittle game, especially because Deebo's injured and they're not probably going to use him the same way that they would have used him if he does even get in there. I don't think CMC is going to be in there much. I think if he does get in there, I think he's on a snap count. And then Ayuk, obviously, he's coming off a bit of an injury as well. So I think for us, it's going to be Kittle. Purdy and him have a really good connection. I think it's going to be one of those games that, it's tight end heavy, but this, you just sparked something in me. How did you feel when you guys picked up TJ Hawkinson? It was last year, I believe, right?
I loved it. Yeah, it was last year, traded for him, and then I loved it at the time. He was solid. He was good. He obviously got paid to reset the tight end market, and since getting paid, he's had a case of the drops and inconsistency. So that's been disappointing, but hopefully he get back to motivating himself outside of the money area and can get back to doing what he does well.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know what it is when dudes get paid, they end up just dropping off a bit. Like the same kind of some people are saying about Nick Bosa, although I think Nick Bosa is doing a lot in the background that we're not really seeing and focusing on. Like everyone wants to be like, oh, quarterback sacks, but like there's so much more to it. There's the pressures and everything, and he's doing just fine for us. So I'm still happy he got paid. Also, okay, so on the flip, who are we looking at on the Viking side of the ball that we're maybe going to sit this week?
Stay away from Alexander Madison. Your guys' run defense is tough, and he's been struggling. And now with Cam Akers taking away some of the he's looked good when he's been in. They didn't necessarily give him the carries last week that he should have gotten, but I think after looking back at the film from the last couple weeks, that they're going to see that he should be getting more of the carries, and that's going to take away from his already struggling opportunities. So, yes, he's RB1 for the Vikings, and so people might want to put him in just because of that, but stay away from it.
Yeah, I'm agreeing on our side of the ball. CMC is one of those guys that I'm sitting. Obviously, we don't know what the I think it's an oblique injury. They said it shouldn't be too bad. He is potentially going to play on Monday, but I don't think they use him the same way that they had, where, in the game where he gets 4 touchdowns. I think if he is in there at all, it's going to be a very minimal situation. He's maybe going to have, some quick bursts, but nothing too crazy. Maybe they'll throw a touchdown in there. I don't know. I just want them to sit him and have him fully healthy and not, continue. Have you had an oblique injury before? Do you know how these things work?
No, I have not had that. It does not. No. It sounds painful though.
Yeah. I was going to say on the surface, people are like, oh, oblique, that's not that bad because at least it's not the ribs, right? But some people are like, I don't know. You don't want to make that worse because it could be really bad for him, like down the road, right? So,
and all those muscles are connected in there, like going around your whole back to abdominal area. So that can be a lot of strength that he could impact his running ability.
See, do you do stuff when it comes to injuries? Do you do any analysis with that? I feel like you'd know everything with everything you do for fitness.
Well, what I do, it does help quite a bit knowing how things are connected, just because I do a lot of rehab with personal training and whatnot, and work with people with injuries. But I don't like to get into the whole guessing game, like what people's injuries are and stuff, because it's different for everybody.
I want to get into a little bit of like a positive feel good moment with you. This is how I like to end my podcast off. You help others to live a healthier and happier life. Obviously, this is something that you've been able to do for yourself too, I'm assuming. And, you know, with what you've gone through, with what your mom has gone through, all these positive, amazing things that have gotten you to where you are today. There are sometimes, obviously, I'm sure you felt down, you felt unmotivated, you felt, you know, in my case, sometimes I feel like I'm not enough. These are all things that I even felt somewhat this week, you know, like you're going through the motions of being a new mom for myself. And it can be a lot. Things weigh you down a little bit. You know, I thought, do I do the podcast this week? Are these, you know, like you want to take these mental breaks and physical breaks for yourself when you're having a tough day and everything. And it's hard to keep yourself motivated. So with everything that you do for other people and all the motivations that you have for them, how do you look in the mirror and also do that for yourself when you're having those tough days as well?
Absolutely. First know that those feelings that you described are completely normal. I have those all the time. I know a lot of people that have done a lot of things, they have shared having those feelings. But I would say the biggest thing is just remember your reason why. And when you have that reason why, write it down, put it somewhere that you can see it every single day. Just have easy access to it, whether it's on your fridge, your wall, in your notepad, whatever it is. And that's the biggest thing. So you need to establish that before you do anything. You need to know why you're doing it, who you're doing it for, and then you need to make sure that it's strong enough and a good enough why. So you might need to reevaluate that, and every year or every month if it's not getting the job done. So like for me, I alluded to that earlier, and I said my biggest why was my children, and that it's definitely strong enough to pull me when times get tough. So there's times where I, like you said earlier, questioning, why do I keep doing this? Should I quit this, or why am I pursuing this? I'm doing it because I want to inspire my children and show them that they can too do their passions make their passions a reality for providing an income or living out their dreams or being as healthy as they can be. And that's why I'm doing it. And when I think about that, or when I look at that, that pulls me through on days that I don't want to do it for myself, because my why is bigger than me.
That's so beautiful. Honestly, I haven't felt such a kick and fuel inside of me that I had this past year. And in order to do this podcast, it's something I'd put off for a very long time. And like, I know a lot of people, oh, it's just a podcast. But for me, it's something that I had always had this goal of doing a 49ers podcast, covering it, interviewing somebody each week and sticking to it, because I used to let a lot of, my own anxieties and like sometimes depression and whatnot get in the way of me like getting up and doing what I really want to in a day. And ever since I've had my daughter, I feel like that part of me that used to want to just lay in bed and want to just like give up on what I really want in this life, that part of me is gone. So I think I've been doing the why without even knowing it. Yeah. And it just feels really nice to hear it from somebody, who's also used that motivation as why too. So thank you so much for sharing your journey and whatnot with us. All of my faithful friends, if they're not following you, can you let us know where they can go follow you on all your social media?
Yeah, so on Twitter, it's at Dom Clare, and Clare is Clare. A lot of people like to put the I in there. And then so if you're into fitness, I do most of my fitness stuff on Instagram. I share some on Twitter too, but Instagram's like my main fitness hub, and that's just at Dominique Clare. And then I am on Facebook as well, where I share a little mix of both of fitness and sports.
Amazing. Okay, awesome. That's all I have from you. Thank you so much again for joining me. This was so awesome. It was great to get some intel on the Vikings and everything. And yeah, I'm so excited for the game this weekend, or Monday. We'll see how we do. And you know what? It's all love between us. Like I'm not going to sit there and put your Vikings down. I know in the past I've called them frauds, but it's more just me being cheeky online. I'm not that person that ever tries to go at people or anything. I'm just excited for the game, and I'm very grateful that we get to watch these games and whatnot. So I'm excited. And yeah, thank you again for joining me, Dominique. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was fun.
All right, everyone. It has been a slice. It's early. I'm about ready to start my day in Italy. Thanks for tuning in to Crystal Ballin'. Next week, we've got Joey B and the always open Jamar Chase and the Bengals, baby. Obviously, I had to invite the commissioner on to chat all things Cincy with me. If you know exactly who's joining me next week. She is amazing. Anyway, I love you guys. And as always, I'm sending you all the good vibes and fantasy wins this season. Peace.